All right, welcome to a new tutorial. Here we are going to be doing our Boolean search party, which is what is in our syllabus. So here we're going to be doing our how to search video tutorial via database. So I currently am not able to get into the school's database, but it's literally the exact same thing. Trust me, I've been to about 4 universities, and I've also attended a school that had their own database as well. It's literally the same structure. So here I'm going to choose my database here, which is EBSCOhost, which is pretty much a pretty commonly found database. And then it's going to take me to a little check mark area. This isn't it what you're looking at, but it takes me to a page and it allows me to have the option of looking through search complete. Right here it says academic search complete, which includes all the separate kind of databases. So this is the education field, the arts, the human sciences, and all of these different subject matters all in one database for an academic search complete. Okay, so here we have our Boolean phrases that are here automated for us. And you can see that there's the search mode, and you always want to do a Boolean phrase. It is the most reliable way to do your research and to create your research questions into this little bar here. So again, this is optional. You can look through here and see what kind of input you want to do. So if you have a text already in mind, but you know the author's name and not the title, you put this here and you type in your author, right? That's pretty much what it is. Typically, you can leave this like that and you have no problem looking for something. So let's say I want to look up something in the historical context for The Raven. So I'm going to look up The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe, and then I'm going to do and. You can do this right here, or you can carry on into here, which it already separates this search from this search, right? But it's all in the same entry. So we're going to do The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe, and historical context. And then we're going to search. And here you're going to get a lot of different kinds of results. So we want full text. We want scholarly peer-reviewed articles because they're the most reliable for what we're going to be doing in our research. And then you can see here it's telling you we have sources from 2002 to 2012. So it narrows down your search, and here we only have 3, right? So here we have annual bibliography of works of writing, a fable whispering about the wars. So that's interesting. We can open up a new tab and kind of take a look at that. And then there's Gothic for beginners, which is great because we know from our class time that Edgar Allan Poe specialized in Gothic writing as well as romantic. So here we're going to take a look at this. This seems like the most promising one. And here we can see Gothic for beginners. And you can just kind of read the first paragraph and even the last paragraph of this document so that you can kind of get a feel for what it's going to be discussing. But from what I'm looking at, this seems to be a review of several books because we have different authors here and different works being talked about. So this is a nice short reference if you want to choose something like this. And then we have our fable whispering about the war, so let's take a look at that. So this is a cool document. You can actually listen to the reading if you really, really, really want to get all in here. I don't recommend that. Typically, if I'm looking for a research article or some kind of review of this nature, I'm not going to be reading throughout the whole thing. I'm going to read the first paragraph and make the decision for myself if this is reliable, if this is information that's going to do me well in my research progress. Okay, and thus far it doesn't seem to be, because we're talking about the war. We can do a search through here and look for the Raven specifically and see where the relevance is at here. So we have 2 matches within the entire document. So here we're talking about owes its presence to another flyer. Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, tall tale, Tullyman's tall story about a three-legged horse. Oh my. Okay, that does not seem to be relevant. So you can go ahead and do that. So I did Command F, which is search throughout the entire page that you're looking at. Most computers have this function. From this kind of document, you will not be able to do that because the PDF is within the web page, whereas you have words right here on the screen. You can actually search it. See? It's not going to work here. So that document, this third one here, is the most reliable out of the three that you get from here. But if you want something definitely less broad, you would look up whatever was going on. I mean, let's just say that it was actually about birds and we needed more research about birds to get our paper started. We're going to look up birds, or specifically ravens, of course. But again, that's pretty broad. Winged Revelations, Poe, whatever. So this would actually be interesting. It might regard the symbolism of the bird, which is great for your literary tools, which is great to relate to your metaphors, your similes, hyperboles, those kinds of things. This seems to be an interesting breakdown. But again, it has several authors in there, so you'd really have to dissect that whole thing. But anyway, this is your nice little tutorial here. Obviously, I'm not going to find you exact documents that you might want for your research because this is all your project and it's all up to you. So this was a brief little introduction to what a database can provide for you, and it's a really great way to get to know how your resources are going to be looking. So here, if you don't want to do your citations, there's a button right here, nice little button. It has every single kind of citation style. There's a lot of them. So we have MLA, we have Chicago, which is also called Turibian, and then we have our APA. Then you also have some documents with the listen option, and you can listen to the entire thing in one go. You have your translate button if you have any other languages that you prefer to be reading in or listening to. Sometimes they have different languages already translated into the automated speech. You can add this just to your Google Drive right from here. A lot of documents have this option as well. Print it out, do whatever you want to do on this area. So these are really great tools. Most databases have this option. Some documents are going to be on the detailed record and they're not going to show up as HTML or PDF or online available articles or resources, whatever it is that you might be looking at. And that would mean that you need to request the document or request the article to be sent to you via email, and this can take several days. So if you see something like that, you might want to skip over unless it's something that you really think is going to be the prime jewel in your research process. However, I do not recommend doing that. It's a lot of waiting a lot of the time. So go ahead and just say goodbye and try and look up a different resource. Sometimes they will pop up, but it's quite rare. So not to give you false hope, but just so you know. And again, you want to make sure that you're getting the best filter out of all of these documents that pop up, because originally we had quite a few. Like, let's say I just uncheck these scholarly reviewed ones and my full text. Full text is always important because that means it includes every bit of what you were looking for versus bits and pieces. So here now we have 59 results and 10 pages of results to sort through, whereas we just had to click full text and scholarly peer-reviewed journals, and then it narrowed down our time frame as well as the amount of documents we could be looking at. You can also search different kinds of specific resources that you want to take a look at. So here I just have all results. Anyone is good. But once you click peer-reviewed or scholarly resources, it's going to knock out a lot of magazines, a lot of book reviews, a lot of different trade publications because they're not considered scholarly resources. A lot of them are going to come from academic journals, of course, and newspapers. Some of the time, it just depends, which ones are more reliable than the other. So that's also an option if you want a specific kind of resource, but typically I would stick with book reviews, academic journals, and maybe some newspaper articles. Okay, so this is the brief introduction to searching with Boolean phrases and searching into a database. This is pretty much all you need to know for right now. So this is applicable to, of course, Chicago style, APA style, and MLA because every single document includes a citation for each kind of style. Okay, there's your proof. So, along with our Boolean phrases worked into the database, I wanted to give y'all a little tutorial, a little bit more relatable on YouTube. So, I want to look up the Raven. I'm just going to use this as an example again. So, we're going to do this right here. And you can see that YouTube has these filters. So, let's say I want it from this year. But I also, of course, want a video. I want it shorter than 4 minutes because I don't have that attention span. And I also want something with Creative Commons, which means that people have the permission to use a lot of different aspects of the Raven to customize it to their own artistic endeavor. So there we have it, and then I don't really care about view count or anything like that, so we're just going to go ahead and look at this. So here we have songs, I guess. So here we have songs, we have the episode of The Simpsons that was based off of the concept of the Raven. We have audiobooks and things like that. It's kind of the same concept as if you were to look this up on a database, is kind of what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. So you can see here there's an animation and a narrated animation, so that's really cool. We also have analysis of the poem with visuals and things like that. So when you click on the Creative Commons, this is going to be more of like the legal aspect, but here we can see that people have taken a lot of creative liberty in animating, in providing visuals again, and we're not sure thus far, aside from clicking on the video and kind of seeing what the channel's all about, if these animations are organically made or they took photos off of Google and then made a moving image. So again, has to do with Creative Commons and the legality of putting together a film like this. So let's just take this off and see what else happens, because again, we're filtering out a lot of videos here. So we see we have Hank Green and he reads The Raven. I don't know if he provides like maybe a contextual video where you guys can get a little bit more into the literature with Hank Green. If you want playlists, channels, and things like that, so this is kind of the same concept as if you were to go on the database and select an academic journal, a newspaper article, a magazine page or section, and then of course the relevance, the upload date, or perhaps the publication date would be important to take into account as well. You don't want something super old, but you don't want anything super updated either when it comes to literature, unless you're going from a standpoint of things that are a little bit more progressive and well researched in the present day. So we can be talking about the concept of passing in relation to a chosen exile. We can be talking about the current state of Native American reservations in the United States with reference to articles that are by Native American people and from their own perspective, because the reliability is that they are there right now in first person experiencing what's going on, and then you can bring that perspective and put it into your writing fundamentally, with respect to the absolutely true diary of a part-time Indian. So that's a really great way to incorporate relevance and again the upload date or the latest thing that's been released, right? And then we can also take a look at that in Frankenstein. It's a very old piece, but there are a lot of different perspectives and contexts with which we can dissect the text and analyze it for our own selves. So, this is why I'm giving you guys the creative liberty of doing APA, MLA, or Chicago style. You want to look at it from a historical perspective, go on ahead. You want to look at it from the literary perspective and break down the language, why things were the way that they were written, and why it's a key point that it came from the perspective of a woman, which is Mary Shelley. So, then we also have, of course, um, the absolutely true part-time Indian diary book, and there's a variety of different areas that you could touch on historically, of course, um, and then you can also bring that into the psychological aspects, the the effects of alcoholism in the Native American community, the effects of poverty, and how that influences stress in the mind. So again, that's APA format. So this is why the creative liberty is so important. And I'm giving you this tutorial via YouTube. I don't know if any of you use this in your recreational video watching, but YouTube is a great resource to grab context, to have little visuals here. So if you want to go ahead and look up something here, just make sure that it's somewhat scholarly and, of course, relevant, and it has some form of substance in relation to what you are researching. Okay, so that is this little input that I wanted to put here for you guys, and so that you have a broader perspective on what kind of references you can be looking for. So there's YouTube, there's Google Academia, or Google Scholar as they call it, and you have your database as well. Okay, right, see you in class.